Miss Florence Quivar. Thank you all so much for coming to this afternoon concert. I cannot even begin to tell you how thrilled I am to have the opportunity to welcome to New York City yet again Miss Florence Quivar, one of the great artists of the past century. And as you will hear on this afternoon, her recorded output is absolutely amazing. And what you will feel from her as she sits here and talks to you all about her wonderful career is her warmth, her beauty, and her kindness. And without further ado, I would like to introduce you to the person who's going to be moderating the afternoon, Mr. Ira Sith. Mr. Sith himself is a voice teacher, a coach, and the artistic director of La Grande Chaîne. He is also a journalist for Opera News and commentator on the Metropolitan Opera broadcasts, of which he has led for the past 12 years. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mr. Ira Sith and Ms. Florence Quivar.
I felt that Florence should have an entrance of her own. So I'm just going to introduce her. One of the most beautiful voices in the world, one of the most wonderful artists in opera, in concert, in recital, an amazing, legendary career. Please welcome Miss Florence Quivar. So we're going to chat for a bit about this amazing career and amazing artist, and there are going to be some audio and video clips. I wanted to start, if I may, sort of, as we say in The Sound of Music, at the very beginning, a wonderful place to start, with your childhood and your mother, remarkable mother who was a voice teacher, who was a piano teacher, who had her own choir. Want to tell us a little bit about that?
I will. However, I would first, I have to hold the mic up, can you hear me? Yeah. I have to start it off by saying that Courtney Parry is absolutely wonderful. He has treated me this weekend just beautiful. Just beautiful. And I had everything prepared, a tote bag, which we know all of those many years, gown in one hand, bag in the other. And I forgot the bag. And they can't find it. I had jewelry. This is Janae's earrings. Someone just went to Cold and Hot and bought me these shoes. And I hope my jewelry will find it. Anyhow, yeah, my beginning, my mother was a singer, brilliant pianist. And so at 6 years old, my sister, who has a fabulous voice, did not pursue a career, instead pursued her two children, my niece and my nephew. And so anyhow, we grew up in a very, very musical home. And she had a choir, it was called the Harmonic Choraleers. And they rehearsed once a week, from which I called my sister. I said, was it once a week? She said, yeah, it was once a week, in the living, in our house. And so I grew up with this music all the time. She taught boys and piano to children and adults. And we looked forward to every spring a wonderful recital. You got a new dress, your hair, and you played the piano, or you sang, or there were ensembles, received beautiful flowers at the end of the concert. So that was the atmosphere which I grew up in on Wharton Street. She took me then to Settlement Music School, which is, for little kids, and sat outside the door while I had my lessons. And I did that up until high school. And then I went to the Philadelphia Musical Academy and graduated from there. I think it was, I'm up there, but I think it was 65 probably. The Philadelphia Orchestra senior student auditions, and I auditioned. Eugene Ormandy was the conductor of the Philadelphia Orchestra at that time. And I auditioned, I sang Le Così Ascostatis, Mani Placabili. And I won. And they took these wonderful photos, which I have some of. And he said, "Do you know when you won?" "No." "You opened your mouth," and that was it.
I wanted to, sorry to interrupt, but we have a clip that I think kind of goes now.
Oh, that's it!
There you are back there. And we have an audio clip which kind of harks back to what we were talking about before then, though, that we should probably play first because it's from your incredible album. I brought my copy for you to autograph. Of Spirituals. And so talking about your mother and talking about the choir, we wanted to lead off with His Name So Sweet from your spiritual album. So we're going to just listen to that track now, and then we'll continue on with kind of the progress of Florence Pivar.
Walter Turnbull, who had the Harlem Boys Choir.
And Robert Joubert right on piano.
Also,
And Larry Woodard also. Oh, Larry, are you here? Larry Woodard.
What year was that? What year was that?
1990. The recording? 1990. Yeah. Yeah, so anyway, meanwhile, back at winning the Philadelphia, you then went to Philadelphia Musical Academy, you went to Juilliard as well.
Yeah.
And you won a very big prize that was associated with a very great artist, the Marian Anderson Prize. What was that like?
That was 1970. And I had gone to Ogilvy with Boris Godofsky and his summer program in Wheeling, West Virginia. And Marinda Perry and I, oh my goodness. And anyhow, we drove there and participated in the program, and there were coaches and various things. There was a coach, Jonathan Dudley, and he said, "You should be in New York." And he was a member of the Metropolitan Opera Studio. And I was just, anyhow, it's not important. But anyhow, I came and I auditioned for the Met Studio, which was Bill Nix. John Gutman was the head of that program. And it is nothing like the artist program that these kids have now. And I went back home and auditioned for the Marian Anderson. And I won both of them. So it made a complete change in my life. And the Marian Anderson, I just did a thing about Miss Anderson at the University of Penn. All of her music, her records and things are in the library there. And they had a day, October the 26th, and it was dedicated totally to Miss Anderson. And I learned more things about it. But anyhow, that money, and I think I was the last winner until
you were the last winner of the proper Marian Anderson.
Yeah, and then they started it several years ago, which is now a totally different program.
Yes.
But Miss Anderson herself, seemingly, I mean, she was way into her career, and she had, I don't know, won something or a gift or whatever. It was $10,000 in the 40s, I think it was. And
43.
43? Okay. And she started this program of Marian Anderson winners. And I mean, some of the names that go back who were winners at that time, it's really incredible. But anyhow, that one, it was a $1,000. In 1970, that was a nice piece of change. It's not bad today, actually. But anyhow, that afforded me my lessons, and I would have to turn in receipts to her sister, Ethel DePriest, who was the mother of James DePriest, the conductor, who went on. And so that's how I was able to come back and forth. And then in 71, I finally found a cute little studio apartment, and then I officially moved to Manhattan in 71.
There's there were many, many breakthroughs, as one has when one has such an important career. One of the things that gave you an enormous amount of exposure for a lot of us was when Lauren Mizell decided to make a complete recording of Porgy and Bess and used a number of very promising young singers who became very, very important.
Leona Mitchell, William Wyatt, Barbara Hendricks, Barbara Smith Conrad, Arthur Thompson, Vincent Bicorda. There were so many of them.
So many.
Yeah.
And we have, actually, we would like to play, if you don't mind, My Man's Gone Now.
Oh, wow. From the recording?
From that recording.
Oh, wow.
This is, of course, a role, it needs to be said, that you also originated in the Metropolitan Opera premiere
In
of Porgy and Bess in 85.
Yeah.
So we would love to listen now to your incredible rendition, so powerful, of My Man's Gone Now. You had such an extensive recording career, enormous recording career. Is there a way in which you prefer recording, prefer live performance in front of a public, and kind of why?
I don't know. I think live. Because otherwise you're going back to the booth. It's probably so different now. But live, you give it, it's something about doing something live, that energy, that just, I think I prefer it live.
And you feel that you get something from a public that
Yeah, you feed from the public.
You feed from the public.
Something, which probably you know.
It's interesting because I sort of don't know exactly where to go. I want to talk about so many things. One is just if we can touch upon this, because everybody always continues to study. And you had a number of very influential teachers in your life. And I would love to just touch on one or two of them. I know that you were with Madame Gurevich for 13 years.
Yeah.
And of course you worked also with Dan Farrow and leader singing, Maureen Forrester. Do you want to talk a little bit about maybe one or two of those teachers, how they influenced you, what you got from them?
Forrester, I was still a student at PMA at that time, and she was in the midst of a huge, she was all over the place, and she gave these incredible master classes, and you were assigned various repertoire, and you had to go and look for yourself. I remember looking and learning the Bernstein 2 songs, and we performed them with her there. When she was away, we worked with Donald Knoll, who I think is still here in New York. But she was incredible. She was really incredible. And what she did was interpretation and playing with words. Something that it brought something else out in my voice. And I can't remember why we didn't work anymore. Maybe, probably because she left PNA. And then I worked with Margaret Harshaw, and she was teaching in Princeton, Princeton. And so I would come up to New York and study with her, and then that was probably about a year and a half. I remember something from each one of them, and I wrote this down a long time ago, I can't find the piece. But Maureen Forrester would say something when you have a ball about the sound going, boom. The ball goes down and that sound goes up. Boom. That's something I remember from her. among other things, but My Messiah with the Collins, yeah, that was Forrester. You know, I remember hence, Iris, hence, so many, that articulation, and so I did likewise with the he was despised. But then Margaret Harshaw, who was a wonderful teacher, and a very, very lovely person who was from Philadelphia. We were talking about Philly. And she brought another depth of teaching. And then from Margaret Harshaw, I think I came to Dan Farrell. And I was with Dan Farrell for quite a while. I won the National Opera Institute grant, which is now the David Lloyd. Yeah. But anyhow, I took that in the studio apartment and I put these glued-on mirrors on the wall to make the apartment look larger rather than moving. And I took the money and I went to Rome for 2 summers, a month, a little under, and studied with Luigi Ricci. And you came in with the score. He didn't want you to know it, and I learned Norma with him. I was still in the studio, and Barbara Seville, and he was incredible. He was incredible. But, and then, actually, thanks to Grace Bumbury, I had been with Harold Shaw Management, and they had done a wonderful job. And sometimes it's just time to part ways. And I went on to Columbia Artists Academy, and Grace Bumbury, who was a lovely, very, very, very lovely person, and she recommended Madame Gurevich. She was working with Gurevich at that time. And so I switched, and she says, I want you to come to CAMI. So that made another big change in my life. And what Gurevich did, she was a real technician. A real technician. And we just worked, and in fact, with Martina, when Madame Gurevich died, which was 1990, and I was in the midst of my career singing all over the place, and I was okay. I think 92, something like that, I called Martina, and because she had studied with Madame Gurevich from a teenager. And so my exercise, because she wrote out exercises all the time, my book is maybe like this, Martina's is something like this, because she had been with her, you know, since a teenager. And Martina was fabulous, and she said, Florence, you need a pair of ears. And that's what she was. And it was like a continuation of Madame Gurevich. It was the same style. And that was my last teacher. And then when she died, like I said, I worked with Martina, so that was it.
It's a fascinating kind of odyssey because you do get different things from different teachers.
Absolutely.
And it really broadens your perspective both technically and textually on the text that you said about interpretation. Well, you made your Met debut on opening night of 1977 as Marina in Boris Godunov.
Yeah.
No pressure.
Right, no pressure.
But what I have to do another segue, I'm sorry, but it's just got to do with our order of selections because this career is extraordinary. You just don't hear about opera singers who are also the most prominent concert singers, who are also at the same time most prominent recitalists. But I'm sitting next to one who has been all three. And about the time, we have interesting clips, and I think from the Verdi Requiem. And I want to play this first for the audience and then discuss it afterwards because it fascinated me. It's two very different approaches to the same music. Robert Shaw first, and then Riccardo Muti, with you singing the Liber Spiritus. And what Shaw has to say about Verdi and the Requiem interested me. And then watching you perform it the way Muti led it was a whole other thing. So I want to show it, and then I'd love to talk about the kind of negotiation choreography that a singer goes through when they do the same piece with several very different conductors. So let's watch This is DVD. This is preparing it with Shaw and then singing it with Muti. Yeah, so blows me away entirely. So I take exception to Maestro Shaw, who was a great choir conductor. But to me, especially because Verdi cast the four principals of the Scala premiere of Aida as the four principals in the Verdi Requiem when he wrote it. He must have had something operatic in mind. What do you think? And how do you make the nuances that the conductor wants when one wants that and the other one wants that?
Well, no, I mean, listening to that, this is very early. This is very early. I remember doing it with Giuliani many times, and with Foncari, with Giulia Varadi as the soprano, and Giuliani, one time he was with London Philharmonic, and he started out, I mean, the orchestra, he knew every dynamic without the score, and he wanted, and that's how he did it for the opening of that piece. So that's the urgency that he brought to it. Foncari, it was that heaviness like that, but maybe with more, I don't know, it's not less, it was different. It was different. I don't know if it was more color or it was, something else, but with Foncari, I only did 3 things with him. I did the Verdi Requiem with the Berlin Philharmonic, and we recorded Un ballo e maschera in Vienna. John? Oh! Sorry. So you didn't hear me. All right, I'll make it fast. All right, so the point was the difference. And Harolyn happened to be sitting right here. You come into a performance and you've just done it with Levine, or you've just done it with Muti, or with whomever. You have to leave that at the door. Mm-hmm. Because it's what he wants that you're singing with now, which may eventually be pretty much the same thing. I can remember with Levine, and anyhow, we got to a point, and in the piano rehearsal, and I just said, you're in 4 and you're in 2, and you gave me 4. And some will do it, switch to a 2, and so then that's how you have to adjust. So then you have to adjust your phrasing, if you're doing it in 2 or if you're doing it in 4, those adjustments. But the excitement with those conductors was just incredible.
Well, you had top of the line, one after another.
Yeah, Leinstorff. I never did Verdi Requiem with him, but I did a lot of Gurlieder.
Yes.
I first met with Zubin Mehta, and I remember auditioning here, and I used to sing, and this coach said, if I hear you singing that aria in your audition, I'm gonna come and stop. But anyhow, I did it, and da 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 di ba und den ton, which is like a B or B flat or something like that. And it didn't crack, but it wasn't my best. And I remember in the audition, I said, so how was that? And that began a relationship of 20 years or more.
I was wondering, the career it's just an incredible career, and it's so many facets. At the Met, after debuting as Marina in Boris Godunov, but you also sang Isabella in Italiano in Algeria, and Fides in Prophet, all these Marilyn Horne roles that you sang as well.
I covered Marilyn Horne. As a cover, you'd get 2 performances or something like that. And
in those days, yes. Sometimes stars are put on, so covers don't always get the opportunity to shine.
Oh, well, that's not new. That's not new. Because one, I'm not going to say who's out. I did anybody agree. Hey, that's the game. But yeah, Italiana and Le Prophète. That was really wonderful. So wonderful. And Levine did say, he says, if we ever bring Le Prophète back, he says, you're doing it. And he lived up to it.
Did you enjoy playing the bad ladies too, like the Zia Principessa or the Principessa di Toulon?
Well, you know what? Because so many of the roles, they were ugly costumes. I mean, they're older, a bitch, or something like that. So when you do Adriana Lecouvreur, beautiful outfits, or Gioconda, or all of I never did Samson and Delilah stage, but in concert form. So my career was really, and I don't know if that's true now, whatever they asked me to do. You know, I'm sure that there are a lot of artists, and there was a plan that you're going to go in this direction, but that wasn't my case.
No, you seem to really base it on kind of an incredibly high level of supply and demand. People would ask you to do something, you would do it. You learned the style, you had the voice,
I did.
and you would do it. I wanted to touch upon something that I thought was very touching, and we didn't, which was a recital that you did in Florence in 1983.
Yes.
You want to tell us about that?
I will. I had been in Florence singing with the orchestra in various cities, many people. Anyhow, we were coaching something, and the coach, and he started playing a spiritual. And I started humming with him. He said, oh, I'd love to hear you do a concert of spirituals. And I said, you know, my mother taught me all of these from a little kid. And so they told me, so bring the mama. And so in 82, my mother had fallen and broken her ankle. And so she was on a cane, and we left, you know, from New York to Florence, Italy. And we did 3 concerts. The 20th, 21st, 22nd. Anyhow, we came back, I think, Christmas Eve. And the master tape, I wanted a copy, which we were talking about, huge tapes, because this is 83, different format. So I came back to New York, and I did find a company, you know, you can find anything in New York, and they reduced it from the European format to the VHS, and I have that. So it was just, that was probably one of the highlights of my career.
Must have been incredible.
It was.
After all the time. At the Met, you were you were in many remarkable productions. For me, one of the great landmark productions at the Met was the Dialogues of the Carmelites, which we.
I understand they're still using the same production.
We have it at the end of this season, and it's still the John Dexter production. We're going to be looking at a little clip from that and a little Balo also, but before we look, I'd love for you to talk about that, because that was one of the casts, I know, of my life. You, Jesse Norman, Maria Ewing, Regine Crispin. And you want to talk about that, and also Mother Marie, because Mother Marie was sort of the moral center of that opera, and the opera exists because of the memoir left by her, because she was the one person who wasn't guillotined. And so the actual real story was the original Mère Marie was the survivor of that when the whole Carmelite order was killed.
Did you say it was Maria Ewing?
Maria Ewing.
It was Ewing.
It was still Maria Ewing. The first one was, but 10 years later, the telecast.
Right. Well, the original cast was Leona Mitchell, and I forget the rest of it. I wasn't there, but anyhow, and they did it in French.
Yes.
And when they brought it back, Rosenthal conducted that, who was a not protege, but worked with Stravinsky a lot, and he conducted that. So it was brilliant. So I had done it before that production, and Crispin, just, you know, it was just very, very, very exciting. And I think they had started the Young Artist Program at that time, because I did it another time with Dawn Upshaw.
Yes, later.
Yeah, Dawn Upshaw. And Murphy,
Yes.
I think so.
Heidi,
but-
Heidi Murphy.
Yeah,
But
Heidi
it
Murphy.
would go back and forth between English and French. Poulenc wanted it done in the language
of the country.
of the country. So the very first time was English, then it was French.
No, first,
but
where for him?
Here,
No, it was French.
but the telecast is English.
With was
you.
it Shirley Barrett?
That's you and Jesse.
Oh, that one. Oh,
That one, yeah.
Right.
And there's you had a few fabulous scenes in that actually.
Yeah.
One we're going to look at with Maria Ewing. Also, your Ulrika, you said something very funny about Ulrika. You said Ulrika bought my house.
So many of them.
Yeah, you did a lot of them.
But you know, actually, in Cologne, with Jimmy Conn, and because he had that house at that time, she sent a gorgeous outfit. It's a red dress and this huge red black veil. Because otherwise, you know, she's not a pretty character.
Really? I think it would be nice maybe to look at the two clips we have now, one of Carmelites and one of a little snippet of Ulrika. I think it's the trio, I think, in the Ulrika
With
scene.
who? With Leona?
I think so.
Or never
With
mind.
Leona, no, it's with Leona Mitchell.
It is with Leona?
Yes.
Oh, okay. And I didn't remember we did that.
Kind of a nice recollection of Leona Mitchell as well.
I know.
The spectacular voice. Now, Madame Gorevich strikes me as kind of the custodian of your voice in a certain way, as a technician, and I think she was, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember Martina saying something, because Martina's always very funny. She said, maybe encouraging you to sing bigger roles. Said if it were up to Madame Gorevich, I'd still be singing Mozart.
Exactly.
So you did branch out into those bigger roles, including the Verboten Eboli, among others. And how did you feel about that? Did you feel the voice just grew into that naturally?
Well, like I said, I've been singing Don Fatale. My first recordings were Grace Bunbury, her album of arias, Teresa Berganza. This was Sam Goody. Does anybody Oh, sorry. Yeah, my first recordings that I bought as a student were Grace Bunbury, Shirley Barrett, concert live at Tully Town Hall. It was. And she sang these Russian songs,
Yes.
which I went out and bought, but I think I sang them probably in English. And I forgot, what was the question? I'm sorry.
Well, what I was doing was very subtly leading into our final group of excerpts, which are a snippet of the Veil song from Don Carlo in French, and then a video of Odan Fatale in Italian.
In concert.
In concert,
Yeah.
Tucker concert. So you sang Eboli in both languages?
Yes. Yeah,
Not at the same time. No?
Yeah, right. You asked me something about Rusalka.
Oh, no.
How could I
on
do
the
both
phone?
roles? Or something?
Oh, yeah, but that was back at Juilliard Opera Theatre. You Jesse Baba and Yeji Baba.
Yeji Baba.
And the Foreign Princess. You sang
Yeah.
both roles, but not at the same performance.
Right, obviously. And when you asked me that, and I thought, well, I know I did it, but, but anyhow, no, the Eboli in French actually was Seattle Opera. And, oh God, I almost said his name. Brilliant conductor, died way too early.
Tom Colton.
Yeah. Oh, we're good. Tom Fulton. And so that was in French, and I think that was the 5-act one.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then in Italian, I don't remember where it was. But anyhow, but yeah.
There are photos to prove it, though.
Right.
Like one there, right now.
Oh, right. And is that Vincent Cole?
Vincent was.
Oh,
yeah, Vincent.
because because
Vincent was Seattle.
I sent the
Yeah.
picture.
Yeah.
Seattle was Vincent.
I know, and I sent the photo with Vincent. The photo has him in there.
He was marvelous. He was regular in Seattle too. I saw.
Oh,
Yeah.
Seeing the French Orfeo there was fantastic. Well,
What was the critic here in New York who then took over Seattle, Washington?
Seattle,
Caceres.
Faye Jenkins.
Oh, Faye Jenkins, sorry.
Yeah. If you got a bad review, they called him spiteful.
It's such a kind business, isn't it? I think we're going to sort of head toward wrapping up this portion of the program with the Don Carlo excerpts because there's some very special things to come. So why don't we listen to that and then watch that? It's sort of in two parts.
It has been said that those who sing pray twice. Ms. Cleavar, your talent, elegance, artistry, and beautiful spirit has truly lifted us higher. And thanks to your extensive discography, we are fortunate enough to not just listen in on your prayers, but in our own intimate moments, be lifted and filled with solace, as we can only hope in our hearts that we pray with you. In turn, when that happens, we are truly brought that much closer to heaven, to Nirvana, to paradise. You have had an accomplished career, and in honoring you today, you must know that this proclamation is a mere moniker of the genuine appreciation of your awe-inspiring artistry, the person you are, quite appropriately done on this last day of Women's History Month. And so, I proudly present to you this proclamation on behalf of members of the New York City Council. And I won't read the whole thing because it's mainly, what we know in terms of Ms. Cleavar's wonderful biography, but I'll just say a few things here. Whereas in honoring Ms. Cleavar, we are recognizing a renowned opera singer for her vibrant, rich mezzo voice, who is considered one of America's most distinguished artists. And whereas she was a regular guest of the world's leading opera companies, orchestras, and music festivals, in addition to symphony orchestras, and has an extensive discography. Be it known that we, the undersigned council members, gratefully honor Florence Cleavar for fostering greater harmony in New York City and around the world, signed this 31st day of March in the year of 2019 by council members Adrienne Adam of the 28th District, Donovan Richards of the 31st District, and I, Donique Miller of the 27th Councilmanic District. Thank you.